What's up, guys? And today we're going to go over Arena, and more specifically, kind of how to go about doing Arena. I think a lot of people don't fully understand that. Alright, when you look at a lineup like this, right, you have 2 infantry, 2 lancer, 1 marksman. What is that? What should that tell you? Okay, well, what that tells me, at least out of the gate, is that they're trying to counter teams that are sending 2 marksmen, 1 lancer, 2 infantry. Because this is going to be mostly beneficial for a 1 marksman team. Okay, now granted, I'm 8.2 to a 4.5. You might be wondering, okay, how do I acquire more, in order to be more effective in Arena? And part of it is, I think, something that you're either, how do you say, it's obviously, caters to the guy that spends more, right? But, like, for example, okay, if I compare myself to this guy, okay, he's got 2 marksmen, 1 lancer, 2 infantry. And we'll go ahead and just give it a try. He's a mil and a half more than me, but we can watch and see what happens. Infantry goes out. All that's left is his infantry and mine. And conveniently, as you can tell, the might doesn't matter. Okay? And that's because the principle of what I just told you. Okay? It's very important that you understand this principle because that is how you will win fights. Now, I'm not going to tell you that, okay, it obviously does matter depending on, like, how good your hero gear is on your individual heroes, okay? But I'm going to tell you that this is kind of the secret, okay? Notice that, the level of the hero is going to matter. The mastery forgery of the gear that is on the hero is going to matter. The exclusive gear that hero has is going to matter. The tier of that hero is going to matter. A lot of different factors, right? But a lot of power and might that is getting involved into these heroes is partly that, and then obviously knowing, your combinations. In this case, this is kind of a wash because now it's just a question of who's going to have the better, and obviously that's me. So this is a one-on-one basically, and it's just not even a question of who's going to win this fight because at this point it's 1-to-1. So it's not even an issue. Okay. Let's see if I can find somebody that's... Well, I guess not. So I'll go ahead and sweep through it. But, I mean, basically, the point I'm trying to get across to you is that power is not exactly the only indicator that determines whether someone's going to win a fight or not. It's actually a little bit more complicated than that, and so in some ways more than one. Like, for example, here we have Tyler. Okay, he has Alonzo, and he has Zenman, 2, and then a Lancer. Okay, we'll go ahead and give it a try. They're all level 80. We might as well just see what happens. Again, part of the problem is that my infantry are going to die a lot faster. Now the question is my Lancer is going to live long enough to outweigh what he's got in there? In this case, obviously not, but you could see how much of a fight I put up against that, even though I wasn't exactly on par in might. And again, you can always go up and look at the defensive lineup, and this will tell you everything you need to know as far as the arena is concerned on where these guys stand in terms of stats. I mean, it's a pretty important metric to kind of follow, to kind of both, the skill level of those heroes are going to matter, the tier and the level of the hero is going to matter, but, as well as their gear. Like, a lot of these guys, what they'll do is they'll get their mastery forgery up to 5. I recommend what you do is go up to 5 on all of your mythic gear first and stop there, and then just do the next set for the next set of heroes. The reason why is because after 5, it actually stacks in cost and gets a lot more expensive. Like, a guy that can get a full set up to 5 is probably going to be a far better player in the long term, because you're just going to have that much more in terms of, stat bonuses. Obviously, you can see this guy's got quite a bit. Once you get to 8, 9, 10, and a lot of people do this, is they'll fully max it out up to level 100, and then max it out mastery forgery level onto a single infantry march, and they mollywop the hell out of almost everybody they come across. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, again, the main thing to consider here in Arena is kind of the grand scheme of things. Now, you might be wondering, okay, now what do I spend my coins on? All right, now you can kind of go about this any one way. You know, you can go for essence stones, which you're going to need over the long term. I think a lot of people, what they do is they save their arena tokens for custom mythic hero gear chests, because a lot of people starting out don't have mythic gear. So this is a really easy way to go about doing it. It's going to take you a couple of tries in the arena to rack up the arena points that you need, but this is stuff that ultimately over time is going to make a huge difference. Now, obviously, you can get some pet pieces in here, like the strengthening serums, probably one of the better pieces in here, and the energizing potions. Or, this is a really good place for taming manuals. But again, the point being here is that you can use arena however you want to do it. If you just ask me personally, I think that the mythic gear is probably the best piece in the entire arena shop that you can grab until you've got a full set, and then you want to work on the next set for your next set of heroes. And that's really kind of how it goes as far as arena is concerned, but hopefully that kind of gave you an idea of what to do. Again, the different types of combinations that I've seen out there is you can either do 2 imp and then 2 marksman or 2 lancer and then 1 in between. I've also seen where people will do 1 infantry, 2 lancer, and 2 marksman. There are instances where that might work out into your favor. You could also just as easily add more than 1 infantry march in there. And that's the nice thing about giving yourself the ability to kind of control how you want to set up your teams. But again, these are just things that you can play with and you can try, and hopefully this input will give you kind of an insight into how to set up your defensive lineups. Because if you're wondering how mine is, obviously if you don't know what the best hero is you can use, just hit quick deploy and it'll pick it for you. But you can always go in here, and if you want to start adjusting things, you're more than welcome to just start pull this guy up, put this guy here. I mean, you just as easily, right, change the format of where they're at. So like maybe I want, instead of maybe I want my marksman to be in front and then my infantry, or do something similar to this. Now, the downside of doing this is obviously what happens when infantry run into marksmen. And you got to know your counters, obviously. So if you start putting things like, for example, people will do this. Okay, the problem with doing that is what ultimately ends up happening is you end up going at odds with wherever that infantry march is in relation to where it's going to hit. This is going to be important, whenever you're setting up your lineups or when you're attacking. That's why it actually matters in arena where these are positioned. Like that will actually change the outcome quite drastically. Even if, let's say you have 2 lancer on the side versus having 1 lancer on the side, like, so for example, like this, that's going to change it ever so slightly. Just little things like this that, depending on how you go about it, is going to change the outcome of the battle. And these are things to consider when you're setting up both your defensive lineups, but also your attack lineups. Hopefully it helps you out, though. And again, just know what counters what. Obviously, if infantry get countered by marksmen, lancers counter marksmen, and infantry counter lancers, you just got to keep that in mind. Obviously the heroes themselves are going to have their own tier, their own level, their own gear. So there's a lot of other factors at play, but hopefully this kind of gave you an idea of what to do and where to look. And I'll see you guys in the next video, but make sure you subscribe and like if this helped you out, and I will see you there.